good. How are you?
I'm great. I see a few ladies joining already, so hello and thank you for already joining. um, so we might
Of our dresses today because I just felt like I was like, no, I'll just wear like my usual kind of go-to day today.
Oh, really? This is your usual? Okay.
I just in my home office like this every day.
Very good. Well, do you want to get started?
Absolutely. So
Great. Okay. So everyone that's already joined, hi. I see Sarah's there now as well. So Edel and I have been friends for many, many years now. And last year she launched a wonderful fashion platform called Rag Revolution. So I guess most of the people here probably know it. So it's a fashion platform for sustainable brands, and you're basically able to rent a beautiful look to wear for whatever occasion you have coming up, without having a huge impact environmentally, on the planet, or on people as well, because you're renting a high-end piece for a fraction of the price, and you're going to look amazing in it as well. So I wanted to ask Edel to join me for my first Instagram Live to talk about fashion and to talk about art. But we asked everyone to send us questions and let us know what they wanted to hear about, and sustainability came up loads, which is perfect because you're the queen of sustainable fashion. A lot of people asked about the role of tech within fashion as well. So with that, I'm going to let Edel introduce herself and Rag Revolution before we get started.
hey, hi everyone, and hi to everyone from Ashley McDonnell. I'm Edel. I'm the founder of Revo Revolution. This is actually my first Insta Live, so bear with me. I'm going to be a little bit nervous, probably a bit stiff, hopefully not too. But anyway, to give you a little background, is we run a sustainable fashion rental platform where women, as Ash put it very well there, can rent really cool pieces that they normally probably would have worn once and left in the wardrobe. So yeah, we've been in operation for over a year now, and
Congrats, happy birthday to Rag Revolution.
absolutely. Hey Cassie, hey Linda. Did you want to, Ash, can you tell us a little bit about your art project and when
Yeah, of course. So for anyone that's already joined, you'll see that the page that I have that's connected through this is Ash Letelier. So it's an art page that I started like 2 weeks ago, basically. Quarantine got me creative, but I've always been working in the luxury and in the fashion industry for basically like 7 years now. Since I first started working, I did loads of fashion internships in Paris. I'm from Galway originally, so it was a big move out to France, but after a few years there working with some amazing fashion brands within LVMH Group and in Dior, I moved back to Ireland exactly a year ago as well. It's almost been 12 months, and I still work within fashion, but on the tech side. So I work for a tech company, for Google, and I work with luxury brands for them. So I've always been really into art and really into fashion. And now I've used the extra time that we have to pursue it and to start projects like this with you. So that's kind of why we're here today. But I wanted to ask you a few questions, Edel. So the first one I wanted to ask you is, who is your favorite artist?
Okay, so that's actually a tough one. I'm going to say I have two favorite artists. So
Okay.
starting with obviously Picasso's the father of contemporary art, but also what I found so interesting is his story. Like, he kind of personifies that the only way to success is absolute obsession, which is a bit scary.
Yeah.
And so I find him, I really love his pieces. And then I love another Irish artist. I don't know if I've ever mentioned her to you, Ashley. It's Audrey Hamilton. So she does abstract.
Yeah, I love her art as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool pieces. And I said, like, I think I bumped into her in Paris Court one day when she had a little pop up there, and I was like, the first proper big office we get, I'm getting one of your pieces in. Like, she's lovely as well. What about you?
I can see it. Also a big fan of contemporary art. Like, any art that I do myself is definitely contemporary, but I'm really into a Cuban artist. He's alive, which is, I think, even better when you can appreciate artists that are still there and still creating and be anticipating what they're going to create. So his name is Fuster. For anyone that's been to Cuba, he basically has transformed a little fishing village outside of Havana into a whole piece of art. You could probably compare it to Gaudi in Barcelona. But he has this little fishing village, and now the whole thing is covered in beautiful mosaic. And it's really fun. Like you go there and you just feel joy. So yeah, that's probably my favorite artist at the moment, at least, Fuster. So who is your favorite fashion brand and why?
Oh, favorite fashion brand. There's a lot. Okay. I thought we were going to talk about designer. So my favorite fashion brand right now. I don't know if you know them. They're called Attio. Is it Attio, the Italian brand? I'm not probably pronouncing it right, but I just love them. They're such a cool new brand. I love their messaging. Their pieces are super octane looks, over the top. Probably the pieces you'd only wear once.
Okay.
They're creative. Yeah. What about you?
I'd say my favorite fashion brand or designer in general would be Fendi. I've always been a huge fan of Fendi. I find that they're incredibly fun, but the designs they're insane. Like the couture shows, my screensaver on my phone is from a couture show of Fendi. A lot of people don't know actually Karl Lagerfeld was the creative director at Fendi until he died. At the same time, he was creative director at Chanel. So there you go. Fun fact, he was behind the reins of two huge fashion houses at the same time. So if we take it back to Rag Revolution and to your ethos and your platform, what was your creative process behind launching your company basically?
My creative process was basically, I love fashion. I love like getting new pieces, but I was kind of getting to the moral dilemma of like, I want something new and cool, but also how can I keep buying at this rate and using the wardrobe? Like this can't sustain that way. And I looked online and I couldn't really find anything that offered the service or for the types of brands that I wanted to wear. And in terms of that, my creative process was trying to build a brand around my personas, which is me, you, fashion conscious loving women who want to be seen in really cool pieces, but like don't want to necessarily have to invest or buy them either. So I guess, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay. And how did you pick what brands to work with? So like Rag Revolution, you've got multiple fashion brands on your site with multiple pieces that people can rent. How do you pick which brands to have on your site?
But that is tough. And we do look for brands that are sustainable. Some of our brands are really sustainable in terms of like reformation. They do all in-house production. They provide ethical production practices. They do, their chemical processing is reduced in terms of all the other brands and stuff like that. So I would look at the sustainability factor. Also, I do really look at brand stories and the pieces they're creating. Like I have certain brands that I love that I don't think I'll be stocking for the next while, purely because I didn't like any of their pieces. So
okay,
being honest about it, for this season or last.
Yeah.
Season. So it is variable. I am very much obviously on sustainability factor, but also on them actually designing a nice collection as well.
Okay. Is it hard to find brands that you find are creating beautiful pieces, but that at the same time are sustainable, or at least can show you the transparency behind what they're doing?
It is quite difficult, and I don't think we're there yet in terms of every brand being completely transparent. There has been a big movement towards that, and even the likes of Fashion Revolution, who have been campaigning for a number of years for a transparency index of all these large brands, there still isn't a holistic view. So in the basis that they can say they're sustainable, and we would hope that they're being honest about that.
Okay. And if you could pick like one dream brand to work with and to have on Rag Revolution, who would it be and why?
Oh God, you see, I very much like the fun kind of new emerging designers at the minute.
Yeah.
Because I do find a lot of the traditional ones, like I'm not too keen on some of their occasions. So another cool brand, dream brand, I love it. They're called 16 Arlington. They're a London-based brand. They launched in 2017. Really cool, like over the top. I actually don't know if you know them, Ashley, but I think you know them.
Okay, I'll have to check them out. Well, hopefully they'll be on Rag Revolution.
Yes, so I would love to have them. Again, very statement pieces, would not want to be seeing them again. So what about you? Who would be your dream brand to work with in any capacity?
So honestly, when I was very young, I was totally in love with fashion and the luxury world, and I would always be looking in, you know, all the beautiful magazines, and like I was obsessed with the advertisements within the magazines as well, funnily enough. And Dior was the brand that I was always really in awe of. I just found every collection, every artistic director brought something different, and there was such strong heritage and such a beautiful story behind it. And I loved how they tied perfumes and fashion together. And I worked at Dior in Paris for quite a few years, and it was an amazing experience. So they're definitely my favorite brand in terms of their heritage and the story they have to tell. And I find it so feminine. I really love the brand. That'll be probably my brand for life, I imagine. So I have a few more questions for you, because you did not study fashion. And a lot of people are interested in working in the fashion industry, but perhaps they don't want to be a designer. They want to work in a different side of it. Could you give some tips to people on how you did it? Like what was your background, what you studied and what you worked in before, and how you ended up launching your own fashion company?
Yeah, I guess like I was the same. I was jotting things from a young age, like always drawing dresses, super interested in it. Always wanted to work in fashion, but didn't really have the guidance or someone to tell me where to start, or didn't want to go to college. And I ended up doing a marketing degree, and from that I still wanted to get into the fashion industry, but it's not a very big industry in Ireland, so still kind of struggled, and eventually fell into blogging because that was going to be my next.
Okay, which is how we met.
Funny enough, I mean, the blogging industry gets a bad rap, but I tell you one thing, I met some great people there. But I would say, so someone to looking for advice is, I mean, intern, do work for free, set up a blog, show your work, have a portfolio, and that's all you can do until you get like a chance or a break with a company.
Very good. So I had, for example, a very specific question from someone who asked me, I studied computer science. Like, what could I do in the industry with my skills? And I think we actually discussed this together a few days ago on the need for technology within the fashion industry. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit. What could someone that has studied, you know, more technical side of things do within the industry? What are the opportunities there?
Absolutely endless. I think as a most creative, most fashion centered people aren't naturally techie people. So what do they need more than anything? They need websites, they need analytics, they need the back end. So I would go from the perspective of offering value in that terms, maybe offering to, hey, I'm going to revamp your website, or actually I think this could do better for you. And then that will be your intro, and then maybe work towards asking to get involved in the creative side. So that's my advice to someone who become from computer science background.
Great, I love it. And what about for someone who's interested in working within the industry in Ireland? Rag Revolution, today you're just in Ireland. I think hopefully very soon you'll be conquering the world. But for your followers, for Rag Revolution followers that are here and interested in working in the industry, what do you think there is in terms of opportunity on our island?
You know, I think our island is quite small, and the industry is quite small. There's not a lot of big fashion brands or players here. So what I would say is, if you want to get involved, you would probably have to go for some of the more traditional brands, maybe Intern in the likes of Primark, Dunn's. I don't even know if they do interning, but I'm just putting it out there because I don't believe there's that many luxury fashion houses in Ireland. So with such a small pool, my advice would be to get into maybe a staple brand, get your experience, and then go to London or New York.
Great, I love it. So I saw a question came up there from Lisa B, who is a colleague of mine, and she's actually an art collector, so she's really an expert on art. And she asked, how do you build your network within the industry? And for me, Edel, you're like the queen of networking. Anytime I go anywhere with you in Dublin, like it's impossible to walk 5 meters without you seeing someone you know. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you know, how you established yourself within the industry in Ireland.
Absolutely. So I would be probably an extrovert / introvert. I do like to But I was always just open to meeting new people. Like, I think how we met, you asked me, you said, hey, I don't know you, but actually this event is going on, do you want to come? And I was like, yeah. Like,
There was free food. You were like, yes. It was a restaurant opening.
say yes to everything. Push yourself. Go to that event. There were so many times, and without sounding like feel sorry for me, there was events on, and I really didn't want to go. I felt like crap. Whatever, hair wasn't done, and I just was like, I'm going to go because it's good for me. I need to, meet more people, try build my network, and and it really works. So I would just say push yourself to the point of you being uncomfortable. Make yourself do it, like, and that's the only way.
Okay, just go out, meet people, talk to them, ask them questions.
What do you actually, Ashley, you have a supreme network. You're like, oh, my friend in New York, I'm going to say him. My friend in Dubai. I need to know, how did you build your
So for me, I knew really early on that I wanted to work in fashion and within luxury, but I knew I wasn't going to be a designer, not yet anyways, maybe someday. So for me, it was really important to go to a fashion hub. I studied French in secondary school, and I said, okay, my French is okay, but I can improve it. So I started like literally working during the summer in France, like taking on summer jobs. And then I studied there for the second half of my bachelor degree, which was in business and French. And then I did my master's as well. And I just did as many internships as possible. Like I started as low as you can possibly start in an internship with companies that were barely related to fashion, but I try and put some sort of fashion related spin to it to keep working my way towards getting into the brands that I really wanted to work with. And same as you, like I was out in Paris, it was ridiculous. I remember I could barely speak French, and I was looking for all of these events like online to go to network and to meet people. And so it was great because I met loads of people, and I also learned how to speak French in the process. But I was very uncomfortable at the beginning, not just because of the language barrier, but like yourself, maybe going to things on your own. But you'll see there are so many communities out there, whether it's online or in person, of people that are really into different things, whether it's fashion or luxury or even perfumes. I became really into the perfume industry. So when I worked at Dior, I worked at Parfum Christian Dior. So they produce all of the different perfumes and makeup and skincare of the brand. And I loved it. It was amazing. And I met people from all over the world because I worked in their Paris headquarters. So we worked with all of the different markets. And thanks to that, I got to basically experience the world from Paris, either getting to travel to the different offices or on a daily basis speaking with people all over the world. So that's how I met lots and lots of people within the industry. And of course, I think people that are interested in fashion and in luxury, they might start with one brand, but they'll work with other ones later on, or maybe like yourself, they're going to launch their own platform. So it keeps evolving, and it's really interesting to see some of my friends that I used to work with at Dior or at LVMH, perhaps they're still there, or maybe they've moved on and they're now launching their own projects, or they're working in different brands or different industries. So yeah, you start small and you kind of try to fight your way up, basically. Yeah. So I have some questions for you on the future of fashion, because I think a few years ago, we never could have imagined renting our outfits. I remember for my debs, I actually did rent my dress. It was from the Ivory Closet at the time in Limerick. So I drove from Galway to Limerick with my mum, and I had found this beautiful dress online. But at the time, you actually had to go there in person. So it was like, the future of fashion's coming, but it wasn't quite there yet. And it gave me access to a dress that I wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise, and a designer that wouldn't have been stocked elsewhere in Ireland otherwise. So you're already in that. You have amazing designers, you're bringing new collections into the country, and you're making it available all online. You're 100% online. So what do you think is next for you and for the industry?
For me, or for the industry as a whole, I think we're not going to be consuming as we were. Fashion rental is going to be the norm, not the unusual or the occasion where you see like Ganni's trialing a H&M. I see a lot of the fast fashion houses actually moving towards a rental model, believe it or not, because to think that they do also realize that people are moving away from fast fashion consumption. So this would be a way of them using their inventory and making more money as before. I'm going to think they're going to do it from a monetary perspective for no other reason why I don't believe it would be from a sustainability angle. But and then I also would see that sustainability is going to be demanded from consumers. It's not going to be an add-on. Like right now, when you look compare two brands and their exact same offering, if you see one that's sustainable, you're gonna, well, I will opt for that. But it's not going to be an add-on. It's going to be the bare minimum that's going to be involved in the streamlining of processes. I'd also say, in terms of the fashion industry, I think that's enough. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I'm running myself here. What about you, Ashley?
I think similar to yourself, I definitely see a big shift towards sustainability and sustainable fashion. It comes with transparency. We have like more data and more information available to us today than ever before in the history of the world. So we're able to ask, well, where was this made and who made it? And did they have fair working conditions? Were they paid properly? Where did the actual materials that were involved in this garment created? How were they created? Are they synthetic? Are they organic? Are they natural? When I wash this item of clothing, is it going to have a negative impact on the water supply in my local area? I think people didn't ask those questions before, and if they did ask themselves those questions, it was very hard to get answers. But now it's a big topic. I saw last week Burberry announced that they're going to be bringing like a new level of transparency to their collections where people can understand where garments come from. A brand that I love, very small brand called Patou, Patou. They're part of LVMH Group, and they actually have a QR code in the garments, and you can scan the QR code and find out kind of like a blockchain about that item of clothing. So where it was made, what was involved in the construction of the piece, etc. I would love to see that rolled out everywhere, like a QR code that you scan within every piece of clothing and having this blockchain available. And I think that level of transparency will be a game changer.
Yourself, what tech advances are you seeing, or you think is going to emerge, even with COVID, in terms of having to be postponed indefinitely? Like, what do you see coming?
So I work in, actually, I started this project for designers, for students that are textile designers, jewelry designers, and fashion designers. And we basically want to give them the digital tools to be able to launch themselves online, to launch their brands. And what I've noticed is, if you're a brand that's willing to adopt technology, whether it's within your supply chain and kind of the behind the scenes, that's fantastic. You're going to have a lot of power in your hands to move fast and have transparency and be able to have this very fluid supply chain where you understand where everything comes from, because some brands don't really know. And then another way you can use technology is on everything that's happening outside and how you display yourself, how you communicate, how you build a community. And I think it's really interesting in the current context where there won't be fashion shows in the upcoming weeks or months, but there are going to be online events, whether it's going to be online runway shows, or we see, for example, last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, Bella Hadid did a show, or she created a shoot from her home for Jacquemus. So I think we're being more innovative than ever. And a lot of those technologies that are being used, they're very simple. It's done over FaceTime, or it's done over YouTube or on Instagram Live. And that gives an opportunity to everyone, to all of the smaller brands and emerging brands, to put themselves out there as well. So I hope the future of fashion will be more inclusive and will give an opportunity for everyone to have a platform. Even for us today, we wouldn't have been able to, like, I don't know, create some sort of a space where we're interviewing each other about what's going to happen in fashion and what's, you know, our view on fashion and art. But because of Instagram Live, we're actually able to do that. So I think that's great. And I saw Sophie, one of my best friends from Paris who works at Dior, she commented that things that we're seeing in technology and fashion, we're also seeing in skincare now. So this traceability of understanding where ingredients are coming from. And I think some industries are really, really good at this, and some industries are a bit more behind. I see fashion going in the right direction though, in terms of transparency and leveraging technology for the good, not just for, you know, automation across the board for everything, but for actually creating communities and animating those. But I wanted to ask you another question on how you think fashion is going to develop in Ireland, and if you think, you know, technology, and whether it's e-commerce or just making things available online, is going to have an impact on that in the country?
That's a tough one. I hadn't thought about that. I am the fashion industry, and
Yeah, tell us.
What will I see? Well, I mean, even Shopify, their stocks went up like 30-40% the other day. It's never been as easy to set up an online store. Even with Amazon, like everyone can be doing like a side hustle. I do believe there's going to be a lot more, maybe smaller online boutiques. Maybe a lot of the traditional boutiques will start to understand, even in the wake of COVID-19, hey, actually, it's not that difficult to get online, and we may see a surge in a lot of like smaller designers getting involved and going online. So I think it's our market right now is quite small, I would say, for the Irish market, but I think it's going to grow a lot in the next 2 years. What do you think?
I see a huge opportunity for Irish designers to be enabled through technology, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's creating, a brand image for themselves online. I think the opportunities are pretty endless, and we're very lucky here. We have incredible designers in Ireland. We have great design schools, NCAD, Limerick School of Art and Design, just to give two examples. And we also have lots of tech companies. So we have the digital skills within our reach as well to help these brands grow and to help them establish themselves either within the country or internationally. So I'm really excited to see how that unfolds. So I wanted to ask you, you're an entrepreneur, you have your own company within the fashion industry, and within tech, you're 100% online, you're a pure player. What would be your advice to anybody who is thinking of starting their own company?
Oh, okay. You better be ready. My advice would be just do it. It's never been as simple before. The barrier to entry is pretty low. I shouldn't be saying this, but it's true. And you want to work in fashion and you want to create something, there's nothing stopping you. Like, there's so many easy ways to get online right now. And I guess my advice is just put down a plan, have your goals and stick to it, and maybe test it, maybe launch a small little website or platform and see how it goes and let it grow organically, or do it while you're still in work. You don't want to give up your full-time job, but my advice would be just do it.
I love it. That's very positive advice. You inspired me. Perhaps one day I'll be launching my own company as well, Edel. I'll be looking to you for advice. Yeah, so we just have 2 minutes left. This went really quickly. Thank you for everyone that's in the Instagram live, by the way. It's very comforting to see. Edel and I were very worried we weren't worried about having no people, because that wouldn't have been too embarrassing, but if there was just one person and they saw they were the only person, it could have been awkward. So I have one last question for you. Yeah. If you could give yourself advice to the 16-year-old self you wanted at the time to work in fashion, you're already obsessed with it, what would you have said to yourself?
I would have said, go intern. Don't listen to the naysayers and just go for it. Like, I think I never really properly went for the fashion industry because I didn't think I could, or I did always want to be a designer, but I didn't believe I was talented enough. And I know, I'm not saying I am now, but I think if I had a different mindset and a different mind frame, things might have been slightly different. So I would just say intern, believe in yourself and go for it.
I love it. I see Katie Hutchinson giving you some support there as well. And then, so we have 1 minute left, so I'm going to ask you one last question. I would like to know what's next for Rag Revolution. What's your big next step?
What's next? We have a really exciting project in the pipeline, so things have been a little bit quiet here the last while, given with COVID-19. And also we took this time to take a step back and really look into what we're going to do next in terms of our goals, our planning, and where we want to be. So yeah, we have a very exciting project pending. Can I tell you anything about it?
Very mysterious.
Yes, like product drop. Yeah.
Great. What about me? Well, I'm going to continue doing lots of art. It's something that makes me very happy, and I think getting your creative juices flowing helps you in every aspect of life. Helps me. I even become more creative when I'm cooking, for example. So I feel like it's something that is beneficial for everything. So I'm going to keep doing that. And I hope one day to launch my own fashion brand as well. That's my dream, even though I still haven't really worked on the design element, but I'm going to get there eventually. So, yeah.
I feel like actually you are like my most inspiring. No, my friends are probably listening to this now.
You're one of them.
You put me to shame. Like you literally are. You say you're going to do something, you're getting it done. You are so determined, so driven, and I actually want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who wants to work in the industry or get experience, or yeah?
So for someone that wants to work within fashion, whether they have like fashion skills or not, I didn't have fashion skills. I actually dressed and still don't, like, it's still questionable how I dress, to be honest. But for one advice that I would give is just don't be scared. I think because I was so naive when I was younger, I moved to Paris barely speaking French, which is hilarious when I think about it. I went over and I hadn't a clue. So just think the world is your oyster, and it will be. If I had been overthinking it, if I thought about it too much, I never would have done it. So I would say go to where you think is the best place to be, and don't think I can't go there. Because I know a lot of us would love to live in New York or Milan or London or whatever. You can go, you can do it. And if there's something that's stopping you from doing it, whether it's perhaps language barrier, like, we can all learn a new language. It's possible. I was able to learn French. I'm from Galway. Like, it's possible even with my accent. So that's what I see. Sophie, my friend, putting a laughing emoji. She is French, so perhaps she's disagreeing with my ability to speak French, but please don't write it there. So yeah, that's it. Anyways, thank you everyone so much for joining. It's been lovely to chat with you, Edel, and thank you for your very inspiring advice. And oh, thank you, Sophie, for saying my French is good. So Edel, I can't wait to see what you do next. For anyone here that doesn't already follow the Rag Revolution, please do. She puts up daily fashion polls as well, which I think are amazing. So thank you.
Thank you, and Ashley, thank you so much for pushing me out of my comfort zone to do this Insta Live. I was not following Ash a la Tour. We followed a beautiful art page, and yeah, it was great.
Lovely. Thank you.